Today we explore a backyard event where normalcy masks something broken. You'll see the fragile hold of silence in Avery's world of brittle laughs and evasive glances. The chipped teacup on the table hints at fractures no one admits. You will remember this. The backyard hummed with the low drone of summer. Cicadas slicing through the humid air. Laughter from cousins spiking like faulty fireworks. Noah leaned against the wooden rail of the deck, a plastic cup of lukewarm beer sweating in his hand, his eyes tracing the edges of the gathering. Tables groaned under platters of potato salad and ribs, the grill's smoke curling lazy fingers toward the overcast sky. Everyone played their parts, aunts clucking over recipes, kids chasing fireflies in the fading light. But Noah's gaze snagged on Avery and Marcus, anchored at the picnic table like statues in a diorama of domestic bliss. Avery sat with her elbows on the checkered cloth, her sundress clinging damply to her shoulders, forcing a smile as she passed the coleslaw. "More ribs, hun?" Her voice was light, rehearsed, but it cracked at the edges, like thin ice underfoot. Marcus nodded, his jaw tight, eyes flicking past her to the lawn where neighbors milled. No warmth in that glance, just a void, a polite evasion. He murmured something about the game on TV later, words as empty as the beer cans littering the grass. Avery's laugh followed, brittle, her fingers twisting a napkin into shreds. Noah shifted, the rail digging into his back. He wanted to look away, to join the cluster by the cooler, but his feet rooted him. Observer mode, he thought. Safe, detached, like watching fog roll in from the bay. But the anxiety crept up anyway, a slow uncoiling in his gut. Those glances weren't new, not really. But here in the open, under the scrutiny of family eyes, they sharpened. Marcus's hand brushed Avery's arm in passing, accidental, obligatory. And she flinched, just a fraction, enough to twist Noah's chest. He knew the script. Nod, smile, keep the peace. Silence was the glue, wasn't it? The thing that held this fragile web together. His gaze drifted to the table, landing on a teacup. Porcelain, chipped from some forgotten drop. A hairline fracture spidering across its rim. Someone had set it out with the desserts, probably Avery, mistaking it for whole. Noah's throat tightened as Marcus poured coffee into it, the liquid sloshing dark and uneven, threatening to seep through the crack. No one noticed? No one ever did. What if he said something? A question, a nudge toward the truth festering beneath the small talk. But the words died unspoken, heavy as the humidity pressing down. Could silence really stitch them back? Or was it just another fracture waiting to split wide? The party swirled on, oblivious. But Noah felt the first real pull of the unraveling. Later that evening, as the gathering wound down, the summer air hung thick in the backyard, the kind that clings to your skin like regret. Noah sat on the porch steps, fingers tracing the worn grain of the wood, his gaze fixed on the empty barbecue pit where flames had danced just hours ago. The family's laughter from earlier echoed in his mind, hollow now, undercut by the glance he'd caught. Marcus's hand lingering too long on the stranger's arm across the fence. Silence pressed in, a familiar weight. But tonight it cracked something inside him. His eyes drifted to the kitchen window, where the light spilled out like a confession. Inside, Avery moved like a ghost, stacking plates, her back to the world. Noah's breath caught, pulling him under. He was 10 again, the air cooler then, laced with the scent of rain-soaked earth after a storm. The old oak table in the dining room, scarred from years of meals, held them all. Mom with her flour-dusted apron, Dad's calloused hands folded in quiet authority, Avery giggling over a scraped knee, and him, Noah, the watchful one, always on the edge. It started with the teacup. Grandma's heirloom, porcelain fine as a whisper, slipped from Mom's grip during dinner. It hit the floor with a brittle snap, not shattering clean, but fracturing along the rim. A hairline crack that spiderwebbed like doubt. They all froze. Dad knelt, gathering the pieces, his voice steady. We fix what we can. Protect what's ours. Mom's eyes welled, but she nodded, and Noah felt it then, the pull to shield them. I promise, he blurted, voice small but fierce, standing on tiptoe to press his palm over the broken edge. I'll always protect the family, no matter what. They'd hugged him, the crack taped over. The cup returned to the shelf like nothing happened. But promises aren't porcelain. They harden. They bind. Back then, it felt noble. A knight's vow in their cluttered suburban kingdom. Now, at 35, slumped on those same steps, Noah saw the trap. That oath had morphed into chains, wrapping tighter with every unspoken word. Marcus's betrayal wasn't a scraped knee. It was a fracture running through Avery's heart. And Noah's silence glued it in place, pretending wholeness. The emotions swelled, starting as that boyish glow of oath-bound duty, warm and righteous, then twisting into something suffocating, a responsibility that choked the air from his lungs. He could taste it, metallic like blood on his tongue. Protect them? By watching Avery fade, her smiles brittle as that cup? The kitchen light flickered, and he imagined the teacup still there on the shelf, hidden in the cabinet now, its crack widening unseen. Could he twist that childhood promise into a key, use protection as permission to shatter the lie? Or would speaking just prove he was the one breaking everything? Noah pressed his forehead to his knees, the humid night closing in. The question lingered, unanswered, a shadow in the humid dark. A few days later, the air in the corner booth of the dimly lit diner hung heavy, like the humid evening outside, pressing against the fogged windows. Noah sat hunched over his untouched coffee, steam curling up like unanswered questions. His fingers drummed a silent rhythm on the scarred formica table, eyes fixed on the black screen of his phone. Riley slid into the seat across from him, his face etched with that familiar mix of concern and impatience, the kind that came from too many late-night talks, where Noah said everything and nothing. Noah, man, you're a ghost these days, Riley said, voice low but steady, cutting through the hum of distant clatter from the kitchen. He leaned forward, elbows planted like anchors. That barbecue? You were there, but not. Staring at Avery and Marcus like you saw a storm coming. What is it? Spill it before it eats you alive. Noah's chest tightened, anxiety coiling like a spring in his ribs. He could feel the childhood promise whispering in his ear. The solemn vow under the old oak tree, hands clasped with his siblings. Protect the family, no matter what. It had felt noble then, a shield against the world's chaos. Now it was a chain, dragging him deeper into the muck. He glanced at his phone again, the unread voice memo icon glowing faintly in his mind's eye. A recording he'd impulsively made last week, capturing Marcus's hushed call to his lover, words sharp as shattered glass. He hadn't played it back, couldn't. What if listening made it real enough to shatter everything? It's nothing, Noah muttered, voice flat, deflecting like always. His heart raced, a frantic pulse against the lie, but Riley's eyes bored in, unyielding. Bullshit. You're unraveling, Noah. I see it, the way you flinch when Avery smiles at him, like you're bracing for a hit. If it's about them, whatever's going on, you can't carry it alone. Talk to me, or to her, before it poisons everything. Guilt surged, hot and familiar, mingling with a treacherous spark of desire. to let it out, to scream the truth and watch the facade crack. Noah's fingers hovered over the phone, thumb brushing the screen as if to summon the memo, to finally hear his own recorded confession. But fear clamped down, freezing him. Speaking would mean betrayal of the vow, the family, the fragile peace that kept the house from crumbling. Avery's trusting laugh echoed in his memory. Marcus's shadowed glances, a growing stain. What if words only multiplied the wreckage? Riley reached across, gripping Noah's forearm, not hard, but insistent. You're my friend. Let me help. Hiding it won't save anyone. Noah pulled back, the booth feeling smaller, walls closing in. The anxiety twisted into something thicker, a stuck heaviness in his throat, pinning the words down. He pocketed the phone, the unread memo a silent weight in his jeans. Could he ever speak without pulling the whole world apart? The question lingered, unanswered, as the diner lights flickered like a failing heartbeat. Driven by the unresolved tension, Noah's sneakers crunched softly on the gravel shoulder of the county road. The late afternoon sun slanting through the pines like fractured glass. He kept his distance, heart thudding against his ribs, as Marcus's truck pulled into the overgrown lot behind the old mill. Doubt clawed at him. Maybe this was nothing, just a work errand, a lie he could swallow to keep the peace. But the way Marcus glanced over his shoulder, the hurried park, it twisted something deep. He slipped behind a rusted silo, breath shallow, watching as Marcus emerged, collar tugged up against the humid breeze. Then she appeared. Lena, the barista from town, her laugh cutting the air like a secret unveiled. They met halfway, hands finding waists, lips crashing in a kiss that mocked every backyard barbecue, every shared meal at the Ellis table. Noah's stomach lurched, undeniable. The doubt shattered, leaving a hollow ache that bloomed into despair, heavy as the gathering dusk. He fumbled for his phone in his pocket, fingers trembling. The screen glowed, one unread voice memo, time-stamped last week after Riley's diner push. Noah's own voice, hesitant, confessing fragments. I saw him, right? Avery doesn't know. But he'd never hit send. Now, staring at the couple entwined against the truck, Lena's fingers tracing Marcus's jaw, the memo burned like evidence he couldn't ignore. Guilt surged, sharp as broken edges. His childhood vow to shield the family felt like chains, not armor, dragging him deeper into complicity. Riley's words echoed. You can't bury this forever. While the family bond frayed in his mind, Avery's trusting smile dissolving into betrayal's shadow. Marcus pulled away, whispering something that made Lena nod, their world intact while Noah's crumbled. He backed into the trees, phone clutched like a grenade, the unread memo a pulse in his palm. How long could he carry this silence, now that proof stained his hands? Despair settled, thick and unyielding, as the truck rumbled away, leaving him alone with the question he couldn't voice. That night, back in the quiet of the house, the kitchen light hummed low, casting long shadows across the linoleum, the air thick with the scent of cooling chamomile tea. Avery sat at the table, her fingers tracing the rim of her mug, eyes fixed on the steam curling like unspoken doubts. Avery's gaze lifted, searching his face for the anchor she needed, her hand reaching halfway across the table before retreating. You think? Hope flickered in her eyes, fragile as the steam dissolving. Noah nodded, forcing a half smile, but inside, emptiness cracked open, hollow numbness giving way to the crush of deceit. The vow pressed harder, a chain linking him to their unraveling world. Guilt coiled in his gut, heavy as the humid night air seeping through the window. How long could he comfort her like this? his silence a betrayal sharper than Marcus's. Avery sighed, standing to rinse her mug, the water rushing like a confession he couldn't make. Noah's phone vibrated once, another reminder, the memo unread, words trapped. He pocketed it, the weight settling deeper, wondering if peace was just another illusion he was helping shatter. The following evening, as the tension lingered, the kitchen light hummed like a distant swarm, casting long shadows across the linoleum where Noah stood, arms crossed, staring at the coffee pot's drip. Marcus burst in from the backyard, door slamming behind him, face flushed from whatever storm brewed in his head. "You see her out there?" Avery, pretending everything's fine, smiling like a damn robot. His voice cracked, low and jagged, as he slumped against the counter, rubbing his temples. Noah's jaw tightened. Irritation flickered hot in his chest, a spark against the numb fog he'd wrapped himself in. Marcus, always the center, now dragging him into the vortex. "What do you want me to say?" Noah muttered, voice flat, eyes flicking to the window where fireflies blinked in the humid night. Marcus leaned closer, breath sour with beer. "I don't know, man. Just listen. She's pulling away, and God, I screwed up. That woman, it's nothing. But it feels like everything's unraveling." His eyes bored into Noah's, pleading, demanding. "You get it, right? Family first. We don't air this shit. Promise me you'll keep your mouth shut. For her. For all of us." The words landed like weights, pinning Noah. Irritation curdled into something heavier, a slow seep of suppression, his throat closing around the truth he'd witnessed, the stolen kisses behind the mill, the lies threading through their lives. He wanted to shove back, to yell that silence wasn't protection, just a cage tightening around his ribs. But Marcus's hand clamped his shoulder, grip vise-like, eyes wild with desperation. "You're my brother, Noah. Don't make this worse." Noah nodded, mechanical, the lie sticking like tar. His phone buzzed in his pocket, an unread voice memo from earlier, his own voice captured in a moment of weakness, confessing fragments to the void. He hadn't played it back, hadn't deleted it. It sat there, heavy as an anchor, vibrating against his thigh like a heartbeat he couldn't ignore. As Marcus rambled on, pacing now, Noah's irritation ebbed into a dull ache, the world narrowing to the counter's edge, digging into his palms. How long could he swallow this? The pressure built, unspoken, a bubble straining to burst, or collapse inward, leaving him hollow. Marcus didn't notice, too lost in his own unraveling. But Noah felt the fracture lines spiderwebbing through him, silent and inevitable. A couple of nights later, the weight persisted, and the kitchen light hummed like a distant swarm, casting long shadows across the linoleum where Avery knelt, scrubbing at a stubborn stain on the floor. Noah leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, his body heavy with the fatigue of another endless evening. The air was thick, humid even indoors, clinging to his skin like unspoken words. Avery glanced up, her smile tentative, eyes bright with that fragile hope she wore like armor. "Marcus, honey, remember that trip we talked about? Just us, the lake house. We could start over." Her voice was soft, coaxing as she reached for his hand across the table. Marcus sat there, phone face down beside his untouched coffee, his jaw tight. He nodded absently, eyes flicking to the window where twilight bled into the yard. "Yeah, sure," he muttered. But there was no warmth in it, just a hollow echo. Noah watched the way Avery's fingers lingered on Marcus's sleeve, tracing the fabric as if it could stitch them back together. She poured more effort into it, leaning closer, her laughter forced but genuine in its desperation. We used to dance in this kitchen, remember? Before everything got so busy. She stood, swaying a little, pulling him up with her. For a moment they moved, awkward, out of step, but her face lit with possibility. Noah's chest tightened, a dull ache spreading from his ribs. Fatigue dragged at him, the weight of days blurring into this charade. He wanted to look away, but his feet rooted him there, observer in his own home. Marcus's phone buzzed once, then twice. He glanced at it, color draining from his face, and eased out of Avery's grasp. "Work call. Gotta take this." He slipped into the hallway, voice dropping low as the door clicked shut behind him. Noah caught fragments, whispered endearments, a laugh that wasn't for Avery. The proof burned in his mind, that secluded lot behind the mill replaying like a loop. Marcus's car, the woman's silhouette, the betrayal etched in hurried embraces. Avery deflated, sinking back into her chair. She reached for her teacup, the one with the chipped rim from last week's careless drop, and lifted it to her lips. But her hand shook, and it slipped. Ceramic shattering against the sink in a spray of shards and cooling chamomile. "Damn," she whispered, kneeling again to gather the pieces, her breath hitching. Noah stepped forward instinctively, but stopped, hands clenched at his sides. The fragments glinted under the light, irreparable, mirroring the fracture he couldn't name. His pulse quickened, fatigue fracturing into a tremor that started in his fingers and climbed to his throat. Pain, raw and electric, buzzed through him. Not just for her, but for the lie he cradled, the silence that let this rot deepen. Avery's eyes met his, pleading without words. Fix this. But how, when the truth clawed at his insides? Marcus's voice drifted from the hall, urgent, intimate. Noah's body shook harder, the vow from childhood a ghost pressing down, but useless now. Speaking felt like stepping into the shatter, yet staying quiet. That was the real break. Could they rebuild on this? The question hung, unanswered, as the humidity pressed closer, suffocating. In the days that followed, alone with his thoughts, Noah slumped at the kitchen table, the humid night air clinging to his skin like a second layer of sweat. The house was silent, save for the faint hum of the fridge and the distant crickets outside. His laptop screen glowed dimly, casting shadows that danced across the tarnished mirror on the wall. A relic from Avery's wedding registry, now cracked at the edge, reflecting his fractured gaze back at him. He'd spent the evening piecing it together. Screenshots of Marcus's deleted texts, timestamps from the old mill lot, a blurry photo of the woman's car. Evidence, cold and incontrovertible, stacked in a folder labeled Truth. His fingers trembled as he dragged files, the weight of each click pulling him deeper into exhaustion. His eyes burned. He'd barely slept since that night walk, the one where Marcus had cornered him in the backyard, voice low and pleading. "You didn't see anything, right? For Avery's sake." Noah had nodded then, the lie settling like damp rot in his chest. Now, alone, he opened the voice recorder app. Rows of unread memos stared back. Dozens, months old. Confessions he'd whispered into the void after barbecues and car rides, after catching those stolen glances. He hit play on the earliest one, his own voice crackling through the speakers, hesitant and raw. "Avery, I saw him. With her. I don't know how to say it without breaking us." The words hung in the air, unheard by anyone but him, echoing the guilt that had kept them buried. Another. "If I stay quiet, it'll protect you. But it's killing me." His past self, numb and pleading, mirrored the boy who'd promised his dying mother to shield the family, no matter the cost. Fatigue dragged at him, limbs heavy as he rehearsed aloud, staring at his reflection. Avery, listen. Marcus is seeing someone. I've seen it. We can't pretend anymore. The words stumbled out, voice cracking under the strain. He paused, listening to the silence swallow them, the unread memos piling up like unspoken accusations. The broken teacup from last week's dinner sat on the counter, shards glued haphazardly. Avery's hopeful mend, now a fragile lie. He played another memo, this one from after Riley's urging. Why won't you tell her? You're not protecting anyone. Noah's recorded breath hitched, the guilt surging fresh, twisting his gut. But as the recordings looped, something shifted. The tiredness ebbed, replaced by a quiet resolve hardening in his veins. He closed the laptop, evidence folder zipped tight. The question lingered, unspoken in the humid dark. Was he ready to shatter it all, this illusion of peace, for the jagged edge of truth? The culmination came at the house party a week later, where the backyard hummed with forced cheer, strings of lights swaying in the humid night air like fragile promises. Laughter from cousins mingled with the clink of glasses. But Noah felt the weight pressing in, his chest tight as a locked jaw. Avery's hand brushed his arm earlier, her smile tentative, eyes searching for the brother-in-law she thought she knew. Marcus lounged by the grill, flipping burgers with that easy grin. But Noah saw the flicker, the phone hidden in his pocket, the secret it guarded. He couldn't breathe it in anymore. The unread voice memo burned in his pocket, recorded last week in a haze of fury. His own voice, raw and halting, spilling what he'd seen behind the mill. He'd meant to delete it, bury it like everything else, but tonight it pulsed like a heartbeat, demanding release. The choice clawed at him. No more hiding behind the family's brittle peace. This was it. Noah cornered Marcus first, pulling him aside near the shadowed fence, away from the party's glow. I saw you, he said, voice low but steady, resolve hardening his words like steel. With her, in the lot. Don't lie to me, not anymore. Marcus's face crumpled, then sharpened. Noah, what the hell? You think you can just... I know. Noah cut in, the dam breaking. Accusations tumbled out. The stolen nights, the lies woven into family dinners, the way Marcus had dumped his guilt on Noah like a confession booth. No excuses, no pleas for silence. Marcus recoiled, eyes darting to the crowd, defense rising like smoke. You're destroying everything, he hissed. But Noah felt the shift inside. Determination flooding out the fear, leaving only the truth's sharp edge. Then Avery. She was in the kitchen, refilling a pitcher, her back to the door. Noah's hands trembled as he approached, the memo's weight a talisman in his pocket. Avery, he started, voice cracking but firm. Relief edged in already, the words loosening the knot in his gut. Marcus. He's seeing someone. I saw it. I've known, and I didn't say. But I can't anymore. She turned, pitcher slipping from her fingers to shatter on the tile. Porcelain shards like their illusions, scattered and irreparable. Her face drained of color, eyes wide with the blow. What? Noah, no. Shock rippled through her, questions unspoken, but the air thickened with the unsaid. Were they ready for this fracture? The party droned on outside, oblivious, as the first cracks spiderwebbed through the night. Immediately after, in the tense quiet that followed, the kitchen light hung low, casting fractured shadows across the linoleum, the air thick with the remnants of spilled wine and shattered voices from the party upstairs. Noah stood by the sink, his hands gripping the edge, knuckles white as if anchoring himself against the tide. Avery paced, her bare feet slapping softly, eyes red-rimmed but fierce, No longer the trusting sister he'd shielded with silence. Marcus slumped in a chair, tie loosened, staring at the floor like it held answers he couldn't face. "I need it all," Avery said, her voice cracking but steady. The first real demand after years of quiet endurance. Not just the when and who, why Marcus, why her, why us. Relief flickered in her words, a fragile exhale after the bomb Noah had dropped, exposing the affair like a flare in the night. For a heartbeat, the room breathed easier. The lies' weight lifting, truths spilling free. Marcus shifted, his jaw tightening. "It wasn't about us, Avery. Work, stress, the routine, it just happened." Deflection laced his tone, blame sliding off him like water, toward the invisible pressures of their suburban cage. He glanced at Noah, eyes narrowing. "And you? Parading it out there like some hero? You think that fixes anything? You've wrecked us." Noah met his gaze, heart pounding with the internal churn. Guilt for the years he'd watched. Fear that his voice had splintered the family vow from his childhood. But he straightened, owning the fracture. "I wrecked the illusion, Marcus. Not us. I saw it eating you both alive and staying quiet. That was killing me too." His voice trembled, defending the choice while dread coiled in his gut, the uncertainty blooming like fog. What now? Would this honesty bind them or drive them apart? Avery stopped pacing, leaning against the counter, her reflection caught in the darkened window above the sink. A murky mirror of smeared glass and night beyond, distorting her face into something raw, unrecognizable. She touched it absently, fingers tracing the cool surface, as if peering into the family's fractured soul. "No more hiding," she whispered, turning to them both. "I won't blame myself anymore. But boundaries, Marcus, space, and Noah. Thank you, even if it hurts like hell." Marcus pushed back his chair, standing but not approaching, his withdrawal a wall rising. "Fine, I'll crash at the office tonight, figure out where I go next." The space between them widened, doors metaphorical now, creaking open to raw possibility, or slamming shut. Noah nodded, the relief souring into the vast unknown, his own accountability a heavy promise. He'd stay, hold the line, even as the target. In the dark mirror's gleam, their shadows merged and split, a question unspoken hanging heavy. Could they bear this pain and still choose each other?